gonna admit, I have seen Coco, the Pixar movie, twice. I cried both times. I cried harder the second time. I really, really love that movie, just so you know. Haven't seen Star Wars yet, probably won't see it for a while, but Coco's great. I'm gonna be doing my ranking of all of the Pixar films, that's 19 in total, from my least favorite at the bottom to my very tippy top best movie in the Pixar catalog. A few things before we begin. 1. Only full movies, no shorts. 2. No one's going to agree with this list. Nobody. This is a very unpopular opinion list. I love every single one of these films. There isn't one that I dislike, but no one's going to agree with my ranking. I know that from the get-go. 3. I have not seen Cars 2 or 3, so they're going to be at the bottom of the list just automatically. A lot of people would put them there anyway. I don't know, but I'm just going to put them at the bottom because I haven't seen them. I also haven't seen The Good Dinosaur, which a lot of people really like. So those are just at the bottom because I haven't seen them. My opinion's probably gonna change whenever I actually do see them. 4. Coco's very recent. I'm still really, I just saw it. I'm very much in love with it. My opinions on it may change when I've had some time and distance from it and the hype has died down, but I really love this film. I'm so sorry. Starting at 16, Ratatouille. I know that's blasphemy. I know absolutely everyone hates me for saying that. It's my least favorite, and I love the film. I think it's got a great plot. It's got really great characters, especially Colette. I love her. The soundtrack's really cute. It's a good movie with a good message. I think the art is great, but I'm not really a big fan of Paris. I never have been. Paris has never been a big interest for me. I can't get over the rats in the kitchen. I know that is the whole point, and it's fine, suspension of disbelief, but just seeing a lot of rats together in one place, something about it really freaks me out. I didn't like when they fell from the roof. I didn't like that, and I really didn't like seeing all of them in the kitchen. It disturbs me, and I can't get past it when I watch this movie. 15 is Monsters University, not because it was bad in any way, but probably because it doesn't have the same nostalgia as the rest of them. A, it shouldn't really even exist because in the first Monsters Inc., Mike says something about meeting Sully in the 3rd grade, and B, I was in college when it came out, so there were a lot of things that I could enjoy and relate to. It seemed like a fun, enjoyable movie, but it didn't touch my heartstrings in the same way. As much as I enjoy watching this movie for fun, it wasn't a huge standout for me. 14 is Bug's Life. I actually really enjoyed this movie. I think it's not nearly as appreciated as it should be. I think the message is really cute, the characters are awesome. I think it's one of the more memorable movies in my life personally. But overall, I don't think it has as much rewatchability as the other ones, if that's even a word. And as a kid, there were just a lot of things that I didn't get that I can appreciate now, but definitely made it harder for me to watch as a child. 13 is Finding Dory. Super cute, really loved it. But again, kind of like Monsters University, I don't think it stands out on its own as much as the other films do. And as entertaining as it is, and as heartfelt as so many of the moments are, I think it just doesn't compare to the original. Personal preference. 12 is Brave. I actually really love this film. I think it's got some amazing cultural aspects in it. Love the mother and daughter bond, and the soundtrack's really lovely. But Wreck-It Ralph came out in the same year, and I think it did a better job of expressing the exact same message in a more fun way that appeals to more people. 11 is Monsters Inc. I feel really bad that it's not in the top 10. It feels almost like a sin that it's not in my top 10. But I do love Billy Crystal, and I think that just this whole cast is really great. I think it's a very sweet story. I think it's got so many quotable moments. I feel like I'm more likely to rewatch the other ones than I am to watch this one, but I don't really have any complaints about the film. I think that everything from the villain to all of the side characters is just incredibly fun, and it teaches a lot of important lessons. 10 is Inside Out. I think the only reason it's so low is because I have more nostalgia for the other movies, but Inside Out I think did so much for the mental health community, and I think it did a really great job of making this something that kids can understand. I love all of the characters. There's not a single one that just gets on my nerves. I know a lot of people watch Inside Out and automatically just don't like sadness. They're oh, I wish she'd just be quiet or not do anything. As someone who has depression, I love every single one of these characters. I can see the validity in all of them and in understanding each of them in different ways. And it's just kind of nice to see these two stories going on. You have the emotions going through their journey, but you also have Riley, and you're still invested in her. There's no part that's more important than the other, and it all comes together very nicely. 9 is Toy Story 3. I love this movie. I think I actually rewatch it more than I rewatch Toy Story 2. I don't like it as much just because I think that the story isn't as poignant in people's lives, but it's very sweet. I think it does a really good job of touching at people's emotions for the original films without being too fan servicey. I think it's got a lot of really great comedy in it, and it takes a lot of turns that I wasn't ready for, but definitely appreciated. 8 is The Incredibles. Everyone knows this movie's hilarious. Everyone knows all about like these fun characters and all the different things they can do. Everyone's been waiting for the sequel for forever, and it's finally coming out, and I'm really excited. I think it's one of those films that when it first came out, people didn't give enough credit to, and as time went on, a lot of people realized, wow, this is actually really great, and has a lot of commentary about several different things. 7 for me is Cars. I know nobody likes this movie. Absolutely no one does, but I love it. I think it's a really sweet message. I think the rest of Pixar has a lot of important messages about growing up and being good and like finding your place in life and your identity and all of that. But I don't think this message, appreciating history and where you come from, I don't think it really is shown enough, and I think Cars did it in a wonderful way. It has a perfect soundtrack featuring my favorite song in the entire world. I love the characters, I love the acting. I was actually really interested in it. I don't understand why so many people hate on it, but I like it better. Admittedly, I know a lot of people are gonna get mad that I put Cars over The Incredibles. The only part that anyone talks about with The Incredibles is Frozone, honestly. Versus Cars, no one really talks about it, but I could sit here and tell you so many standout moments. And it's not just Mater. A lot of people don't like Cars because of the dumb jokes with Mater. I appreciate those jokes, and I think there's a lot more heart to it than just that. 6 is Toy Story 2. I really like this film just because I think it does a great job of being a sequel without completely like ripping off the first movie. I know there's a lot of studios that do a sequel for a movie and it just feels like, oh, we had nothing to do, we ran out of ideas, let's just keep going with this franchise. I think it did a really good job of still making these characters someone that you wanted to see more of, and making like these new characters someone that you could fall in love with very quickly. I personally am not the biggest fan of Jessie. I think she's kind of whiny, but I don't know anybody who doesn't love the song When Somebody Loved Me, because like you understand that emotion just reaches at your heart. And I think that even the villain, as much as you can't stand him, you understand where he's coming from. They did a really good job of developing this new story and these new characters in a world that you already loved, and it didn't feel out of place. 5 is Finding Nemo. I think that a lot of people would say the most quotable movie in the world is Mean Girls. I'm sorry, I disagree. I think it's Finding Nemo. I think everybody knows the famous address. I think most people can quote Just Keep Swimming. I love this film. I think it's so good. I think the soundtrack, like in terms of the instrumentalization, like just the music that plays in the background, I think is really surprisingly emotional and beautiful. I think it is one of their more gorgeous films because the ocean is so vast and so beautiful. I can watch this movie and absolutely never get tired of it. I think Finding Nemo is like a staple film that anybody can enjoy at any age. 4 is Toy Story, and that's mostly because of nostalgia probably. I really do like it though. I think the cast is perfect. I think that all of them go on an important journey about discovering themselves and their own self-worth. Movies like The Incredibles have moments that appeal to certain audiences, I think, versus Toy Story just across the board. It's just funny to anyone who watches it. 3 is Coco. I am kind of hesitant to put it so high up, but honestly, when I was thinking of where to place it on my list, I felt weird comparing it to the rest of Pixar movies, because Pixar for me has always been very magical, fantastical, otherworldly. I think the most relatable ones are probably like Inside Out and Brave, because they're about humans, but even then there's this other element to them. Coco felt very close to home, and I've never like celebrated Day of the Dead. I'm not Mexican, I can't say that I relate to that aspect, but so much of my culture and who I am because of the way I grew up, I felt like I saw in this film. And it's hard for me to compare it to the rest of them because it's just a different concept for me. But that's almost why I enjoyed it more, because it felt so much more personal when I watched it. And I don't think that there's any aspect of it that makes it unwatchable for someone who isn't Latino. But I think that if you are, you have that much more to love about it. I loved the characters. I thought the animation was gorgeous. The soundtrack surprised me because I can't stand mariachi music. It's the one kind of music that I do not like, but I can't stop listening to the soundtrack. It's catchy and it's fun. And all of these characters, every single one of them, are so easy to fall in love with and to start appreciating. And I really hope that this movie continues to be popular. I hope that no one gets on some rant about how it's overrated, like Frozen, this, that, the other. Like, I hope this movie continues to succeed and tell this beautiful story. I was so hesitant when I first watched it because I swore it was going to be just like Book of Life. It far exceeded my expectations, and I can't say enough good things about it. Number 2 is Up. I think Up is probably most people's favorite film. If you don't cry when you hear the soundtrack, I don't know where your heart is. This movie is so beautiful, and it talks about such real relationships, and letting things go is probably one of the hardest things for people to do, but sometimes it feels like you have to take an incredible journey in order to do so. I think it's relatable in that sense. I think these characters are lovable, every single one of them. Who doesn't want a talking dog? I think it's very beautifully done. I really appreciate this film. I think there's a reason that it is the first film in forever that's animated to be nominated for Best Film. I think it says so much in an hour and a half, and it reminds us that just because it's animated doesn't mean, oh, it's kid-like, and it doesn't mean, like, it actually can have heart to it, and it can have a message, and it can reach out to people of all ages. Number 1 is WallE. I absolutely adore this film. I know that pretty much nobody else does. I know that a lot of people think it's boring and it's too adult and like they got tired of it. I think I know maybe 2 or 3 other people who share my passion for this film. I think WallE is beautiful. I think it has an incredible message. I think it's amazing how much they can do with characters that hardly even speak. I think the soundtrack's really fun, and they have like both instrumental pieces that are beautiful and songs pulled from other pop culture that is surprisingly fitting. I loved watching all of the characters learn things. Finally introducing the humans in the film just added another layer of like emotion for these robots that, you know, like you think they're like absolutely mindless beings, and everybody had feelings about these characters. I love Mo. I think Mo's the cutest itty bitty. He's probably my favorite character. I think a lot of Pixar does a great job of like having messages about you as a person and finding out who you are and how to be the best person you can be. This one talks about saving the planet. It's relevant to literally every person on this planet, and I can't stress that enough, and this movie did it in a fun and entertaining way, and people still reference it. I think a lot of people talk about becoming like the people on WallE when we talk about not being active enough or not doing enough for our planet. I think it's very culturally relevant despite the fact that nobody really likes this film. Also, I'm a sci-fi nerd. I took a film analysis class in college, and it was completely sci-fi themed, and it was when I was in this class that I realized not only do I like sci-fi more than I thought I did, I really like robots. Robots are really fun for me. So I think falling in love with these robot characters has a lot to do with why I like this movie. That is my ranking for Pixar. I know that you probably don't agree. I know that a lot of people watching this are probably gonna call blasphemy and say I'm absolutely wrong, and that's okay. I've heard it my whole life. I will listen to it again. Let me know what your favorites are. I'm really interested to hear all of you guys' rankings. Also, fun fact, Mandy, my little, has just started her own YouTube channel. It's Water with Lime, which I think is really clever and cute. So I don't know how often she's going to be posting, but she did just post her first video, so go ahead into the description and check that out and support her and love on her because she's great. And I will see you next time. Love, Sammy.